Argentina has a history of ambitious infrastructure plans, but not every project has delivered on its promises. Some remain unfinished, while others never served their intended purpose. And look, I get it. Ambition is great. It's what gave us things like the tango, dulce de leche, and Lionel Messi's frankly supernatural ability to make a soccer ball defy physics. But sometimes that ambition, especially when mixed with a cocktail of political maneuvering, economic instability, and a dash of good old-fashioned incompetence, results in something less like a World Cup victory and more like a spectacular own goal. Tonight, we're going to take a tour through some of Argentina's most magnificent monuments to mismanagement. We're talking about colossal dams that hold back nothing but broken promises, a parking garage for ghosts beneath a cultural palace, and a train to nowhere that cost a fortune. These aren't just minor miscalculations. They are epic sagas of squandered potential and public funds. Concrete skeletons that stand as silent, expensive reminders of what happens when grand visions collide with harsh reality. So, grab your mate, settle in, and prepare to be astonished by these tales of construction catastrophes. We'll delve into the political intrigue, the financial black holes, and the sheer, breathtaking pointlessness of projects that were meant to shape the nation's future but instead became cautionary tales. It's a journey into the heart of what could have been, and more importantly, what absolutely should not have been. Let's get started. Let's begin our journey in the windswept plains of Patagonia, a region of breathtaking beauty and, as it turns out, breathtakingly expensive boondoggles. I'm talking about the Condor Cliff and La Barrancosa dams. On paper, the plan was magnificent, almost poetic. Two massive hydroelectric dams on the Santa Cruz River, promising to boost Argentina's energy grid by a significant margin, create thousands of jobs, and stand as a testament to national ingenuity. It was sold as the most important energy project in the country's history. A powerful, clean energy future for all. Sounds fantastic, doesn't it? Like a superhero origin story, but for electricity. The project was launched with all the fanfare you'd expect. Politicians in hard hats, smiling for cameras, pointing at blueprints that probably looked very impressive if you didn't know they were essentially a multi-billion-dollar IOU. The funding, a massive loan from Chinese banks, was secured, and the bulldozers rolled in. This was supposed to be a game changer, a symbol of progress under the Kirchner administration, which is why, fun fact, the dams were later renamed after Nestor Kirchner and Jorge Sepernik. Because nothing says legacy like slapping your name on a giant slab of concrete. But, and you knew there was a but coming, it's a big one. The problem started piling up faster than unpaid bills. Environmental groups screamed bloody murder, pointing out that damming the last free-flowing glacial river in Patagonia might, just might, have a teensy-weensy negative impact on the unique local ecosystem and the Perito Moreno Glacier. It's like planning a water park in the middle of the Sistine Chapel. Someone is bound to have some notes. These weren't just fringe concerns, they were serious warnings about irreversible environmental damage. Then came the money troubles. Oh, the money troubles. Argentina's economy, which is famously as stable as a unicyclist on a tightrope during an earthquake, went through one of its periodic meltdowns. The currency devalued, inflation skyrocketed, and suddenly the cost of the project ballooned to astronomical figures. The Chinese loans came with strings attached, and when the economic winds changed, those strings started to feel more like a noose. The government found itself in a classic too-big-to-fail trap, but also a too-expensive-to-finish conundrum. Construction lurched forward in fits and starts like a car with a dying battery. Work would begin, then halt for months, sometimes years, due to funding disputes, labor strikes, and political shifts. Each new administration would look at the half-built concrete behemoths and the terrifying balance sheet and have a collective panic attack. Do we pour more good money after bad? Do we cut our losses and leave these monuments to failure sitting in the middle of nowhere? It became a political hot potato, tossed from one leader to the next, getting colder and more expensive with each pass. And the controversies didn't stop at the financials. There were allegations of corruption, opaque bidding processes, and sweetheart deals that seemed designed more to enrich a select few than to actually build a functioning power plant. The entire project became entangled in a web of political patronage and backroom dealings, making it even more difficult to assess its true viability. It was less an infrastructure project and more a long-running soap opera, with concrete and steel as the unfortunate main characters. Today, the dams are a shadow of their intended glory. They are massive, partially completed structures in the middle of the Patagonian wilderness. Construction has been on and off again so many times it's hard to keep track. They are colossal, grey reminders of a dream that drowned in a river of debt, political infighting, and environmental controversy. They generate no electricity, only regret. A silent multi-billion-dollar testament to how even the grandest plans can get stuck in the mud. This isn't just an unfinished project. It's a wound in the landscape. A massive financial black hole that has sucked in billions of dollars that could have been spent on schools, hospitals, or perhaps a slightly less ambitious dam that actually, worked. The Condor Cliff and La Barrancosa dams stand as a powerful, and I do mean powerful, lesson in the perils of putting political ambition before practical planning. A truly damned endeavor. Now, let's travel from the remote wilderness to the bustling heart of Buenos Aires, to a place of culture, art, and history, the Kirchner Cultural Center. Housed in the magnificent former Central Post Office building, the Palacio de Correos, it's one of the largest cultural centers in the world. It's a stunning piece of architecture, a hub of activity, and a source of national pride. But beneath all that splendor lies a secret. A very large, very empty, and very, very pointless secret. Its parking garage. The plan was, as is tradition in our stories tonight, incredibly ambitious. When the old post office was being repurposed into the state-of-the-art cultural center it is today, the planners decided it needed a parking facility to match its grandeur. We're not talking about a simple lot. Oh no. They envisioned a colossal 3-story underground parking garage with space for over 900 vehicles. It was meant to be a modern convenience, seamlessly integrated into the historic site, ensuring easy access for the thousands of expected visitors. Think about the scale of that. A subterranean cavern dug out beneath a national landmark, designed to solve downtown Buenos Aires' notorious parking problems for anyone visiting the center. It was a key part of the billion-dollar-plus renovation project. The digging began, the concrete was poured, and a massive, sprawling underground space was created. The structure is there, the ramps are there, the floors are there. Everything you need for a parking garage is there, except for one tiny, insignificant detail cars. Because, you see, it was never finished. And when I say never finished, I don't mean they're just missing a few signs and a ticketing machine. I mean it was fundamentally abandoned. Why? Well, the official reasons are a murky blend of technical difficulties and re-evaluation of priorities. The unofficial reasons, as you might guess, point towards a colossal planning failure. It seems that somewhere along the way, someone realized that completing and operating a 900-space garage under a historic building with complex ventilation and safety requirements was going to be astronomically expensive and logistically nightmarish. So they just stopped. After spending millions upon millions digging the hole and building the basic structure, the project was quietly shelved. The entrance ramps were sealed off. The massive space, a concrete labyrinth the size of several city blocks, was simply left to sit in the dark, directly beneath the feet of concertgoers and art enthusiasts. It is, quite possibly, the most over-engineered and underutilized basement in human history. Imagine being in the stunning Blue Whale concert hall, listening to a beautiful symphony, completely unaware that directly below you is an empty concrete tomb large enough to host an illegal underground drag race. It's a perfect metaphor, high culture on the surface, and a colossal, expensive failure hidden just out of sight. The cost of this subterranean folly has been absorbed into the overall budget of the cultural center, a footnote in a much larger expense sheet, but a monumentally wasteful one nonetheless. Today, the Kirchner Cultural Center thrives, but its phantom garage remains, an invisible white elephant. It serves absolutely no purpose. It cannot be used for storage due to access and safety issues. It cannot be repurposed without immense cost. It is a permanent, multi-million-dollar hole in the ground, a void of concrete and squandered funds. It's not just useless, it's aggressively useless. It took immense effort and money to create this nothingness. This isn't just a story about a failed parking lot. It's a story about a failure of foresight, a classic case of the build it and they will come mentality, except they forgot to build the part that makes it usable. It's a silent, dark, and cavernous reminder that sometimes the most ambitious parts of a grand plan are the first to be jettisoned when reality and the bill finally arrives. A truly empty achievement. If you thought an empty garage was pointless, allow me to introduce you to a whole new level of infrastructure absurdity. Let's talk about the ghost train of Buenos Aires. This isn't a spooky Halloween ride. It's a real-world, multi-million-dollar railway project that has everything a railway needs. Tracks, stations, signals, everything. That is, except for operational trains. It's the transportation equivalent of a beautifully wrapped gift box that contains nothing but air. The project was born from a noble goal to connect and revitalize the suburban rail network, specifically by creating an underground link between the city's major train lines. The star of this show was the Sarmiento Line electrification and tunneling project. The idea was to bury a long stretch of the line underground, creating a modern, high-speed service that would slash travel times, reduce traffic congestion, and be a gleaming example of 21st century public transport. It was a commuter's dream, and the government went all in. They secured massive loans, hired international consortiums, and bought a fleet of brand new state-of-the-art trains from China. The price tag? Billions, with a B. The project was so ambitious it was supposed to be done in phases, with the first, a tunnel boring machine affectionately nicknamed La Argentina, set to dig its way to a brighter, faster future. The new train cars arrived, shiny and promising, ready to whisk passengers to and fro. But then Argentina happened. Economic crises, currency devaluations, and shifting political priorities slammed the brakes on the project harder than an emergency stop. The tunnel boring machine, after digging a few kilometers, was switched off and left idle. The grand electrification plan stalled. The budget, already eye-watering, became a financial black hole from which no light or money could escape. The project was paralyzed. So what do you do when you have billions of dollars in brand new trains but the tracks you bought them for don't exist yet? Well, you can't just leave them in the box. So authorities put some of them into service on the existing, crumbling, outdated surface-level tracks. It's like buying a brand new Ferrari and then being forced to only drive it in a school parking lot in first gear. The trains, designed for a modern, high-speed system, were now rattling along on ancient infrastructure, a shadow of their potential. But that's not even the ghostliest part of the story. The real tragedy lies in the parts of the network that were built and then simply abandoned. Entire stations were constructed or refurbished in anticipation of new services that never materialized. Take, for example, the stations on a planned extension of the Belgrano Sur line. They were built. Platforms, shelters, signage, the works. And then, nothing. They sit there today, pristine and untouched by a single paying passenger. These ghost stations are scattered around the city's periphery, slowly being reclaimed by nature and vandals. They are eerie monuments to a transit revolution that never left the station. Millions were spent on their construction, yet they serve no one. They are concrete shells, waiting for a train that will never arrive. It is the ultimate symbol of this project's failure, building the destination with no way to get there. The Ghost Train project is a sprawling, complex mess that perfectly illustrates the dangers of long-term planning in a country prone to short-term crises. It's a story of shiny new hardware rendered useless by broken promises and financial chaos. It's a daily reminder for commuters who still travel on overcrowded, slow and unreliable trains of the modern system they were promised but never received. They can even see the new, unused trains sitting in yards, waiting for a future that seems to be permanently delayed. For our next exhibit, we turn to the world of sports, where passion and grandiosity often go hand in hand. Specifically, we're looking at the legendary football club, Boca Juniors. In the 1960s, the club's president, the famously ambitious Alberto J. Armando, had a vision that was as grand as his team's legacy. He didn't just want a new stadium, he wanted an entire Ciudad Deportiva, a sports city, built on land reclaimed from the river. The vision was nothing short of spectacular. We're talking about a sprawling complex on an artificial island in the Rio de la Plata, connected to the mainland by giant bridges. It would feature a massive new stadium for 140,000 spectators, multiple swimming pools, tennis courts, basketball courts, and recreational areas for club members. It was meant to be a world-class sporting paradise, a testament to Boca's greatness that would rival anything in Europe or North America. To fund this colossal undertaking, the club launched a massive fundraising campaign, selling acciones or shares to its supporters. The promise was that by buying a piece of the dream, fans were not only helping build the future of their beloved club, but would also gain access to this incredible new facility. Thousands of fans bought in, pouring their savings into the project, fueled by passion and the promise of a glorious new home. The land reclamation began, and slowly, an island began to emerge from the water. The initial phases of construction were completed. The island was formed, some basic infrastructure was laid down, and even a cafeteria, a sort of clubhouse or cafe, was built. Photos from the era show a bizarre, futuristic-looking circular building sitting alone on a vast, empty expanse of reclaimed land. It was a tangible piece of the dream, a lonely outpost of a future metropolis that was just around the corner. The club even held events there, giving fans a taste of the paradise to come. But, as you've probably guessed by now, the dream began to crumble. The cost of the project was immense, far greater than the initial estimates. The fundraising, while enthusiastic, simply couldn't keep up with the spiraling expenses of building an entire city from scratch in the middle of a river. Argentina's recurring economic instability didn't help, making long-term financing a nightmare. The grand vision was sinking under the weight of its own ambition and a shallow pool of funds. Construction slowed to a crawl and then stopped altogether. The grand 140,000-seat stadium was never even started. The tennis courts and swimming pools remained drawings on a blueprint. The artificial island, created with so much effort and expense, sat largely empty, a windswept testament to a failed dream. The project became a source of immense controversy and legal disputes. What would happen to the land? What about the thousands of people who had bought shares in a city that didn't exist? For decades, the Ciudad Deportiva was a legal and financial quagmire. The land sat abandoned, a ghostly man-made peninsula jutting out into the river. The futuristic confiteria fell into ruin, its windows smashed, a relic of a future that never was. The club eventually had to admit defeat. The land, which had been ceded by the government specifically for the sports city, was eventually sold off to a private real estate group in the 1990s to pay off club debts. Today, the area is known as Costa Salguero. It's home to event centers, a golf course, and other private ventures. The dream of a public sports paradise for the people of Boca is long dead. All that remains are the memories, the old photos, and the bitter taste of a promise broken. It's a story of how even the immense passion of football fans couldn't overcome the harsh realities of economics and overreach, leaving behind nothing but an empty lot where a city of dreams was supposed to stand. For our final stop on this tour of tragic overreach, we're delving into the world of atomic energy with the Atucha 3 nuclear power plant. Now, nuclear power is already a sensitive and complex topic. It promises immense energy independence, but comes with equally immense costs and risks. When you add Argentina's signature blend of economic volatility and political turbulence to the mix, you get a recipe for a project that is, to put it mildly, perpetually on the verge of either completion or collapse. The Atucha complex, located near the city of Lima, is already home to 2 operational nuclear reactors, Atucha 1 and 2. The plan for Atucha 3 was to build on this success and add another powerful reactor to the grid. This wasn't just about adding more electricity, it was a geopolitical statement. The project was initially a partnership with China to build a Hualong 1 reactor, a move that would deepen ties with the global superpower and showcase Argentina's commitment to high-tech energy solutions. The stated benefits were huge: a significant boost to the national energy supply, a reduction in reliance on fossil fuels, and the creation of thousands of highly skilled jobs. Announcements were made, agreements were signed, and the project was heralded as a cornerstone of the country's future energy strategy. It was supposed to be a shining symbol of technological advancement and international cooperation, a clean, powerful, and reliable energy source for generations to come. But then came the delays, and more delays, and then, for good measure, some extra delays. The first sign of trouble was, predictably, the financing. Building a nuclear power plant is one of the most expensive construction projects a country can undertake, with an initial price tag for Atucha 3 estimated at around $8 billion. For a nation constantly battling debt and inflation, finding that kind of cash is like trying to find a unicorn that also happens to be a licensed accountant. The deal with China, which was supposed to provide the bulk of the financing, became a political football. A change in government in Argentina led to a review of the project. The new administration was wary of the financial commitments and geopolitical implications of the Chinese deal. Negotiations stalled. Deadlines were missed. The multi-billion-dollar agreement was put on ice, then taken out of the freezer, then put back in again, suffering from a severe case of political frostbite. This cycle of announcement, delay, and renegotiation has been going on for years. Every few months, a new article will appear proclaiming that the deal is back on, only for it to fade back into uncertainty. The project's status has become a barometer for the country's shifting economic and foreign policies. One government leans towards China, the project is on. The next leans towards the west, and suddenly a partnership with the US or France is being explored, resetting the whole process to zero. Meanwhile, the cost of not building is also mounting. Preliminary site work has been done. Teams have been assembled and then put on standby. The entire nuclear energy sector is left in limbo, unable to make long-term plans because the fate of its flagship project changes with the political winds. Each year of delay means another year of relying on more expensive and less clean energy sources, and the final price tag for the plant, if it ever gets built, will inevitably be much higher than the original estimate. Atucha 3 currently exists more as a concept than a construction site. It's a costly, incomplete promise. It represents a massive potential benefit for the country. Forever trapped in a cycle of political indecision and financial instability, it's the ultimate high-stakes project, where the gamble is not just on the technology, but on the country's ability to maintain a consistent course for the decade or more it would take to actually build it. Right now, it's a monument to hesitation, a nuclear dream in a state of suspended animation. From the windswept plains of Patagonia to the heart of the capital, we've seen a landscape littered with the ghosts of ambition. Dams that don't dam, garages that don't park, trains that don't run, cities that don't exist, and power plants that don't power. These aren't just construction failures. They are multi-billion-dollar lessons in what happens when grand visions are not anchored by realism, stable funding, and most importantly, unwavering accountability. They are the physical scars of political vanity and economic chaos. Each project tells a similar story, a grand promise of progress and prosperity, followed by a slow, painful descent into a quagmire of debt, delays, and disputes. The true cost isn't just measured in the billions of pesos or dollars squandered, but in the lost opportunities. The energy that was never generated, the commutes that were never shortened, and the public trust that was irrevocably broken. These structures stand as silent, colossal reminders that a blueprint is not a building, and a promise is not progress. The lesson here is a sobering one. For any nation, building for the future requires more than just bold ideas and concrete. It demands rigorous planning, transparent financing, and a political will that can outlast a single election cycle. It requires holding leaders accountable, not for the projects they announce, but for the projects they successfully complete and the tangible benefits they deliver to the public. If you found these failed projects surprising, share your thoughts in the comments and let's discuss what could have been done differently.